75 years ago this month, a one-of-a-kind airplane took off and landed in California. The flight only lasted minutes, but its legacy has really lived on.
So we're talking about the Spruce Goose. It's on display at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum in McMinnville. But have you ever wondered why it's called the Spruce Goose? Devin Haskins has, and he's here right now with the answer for us in a new edition of What's in a Name. Hey, Devin.
Hey, Brenda. Yeah, I had no idea. I'd actually always heard about it, had never actually seen, though, the Spruce Goose in person. Didn't know the history behind it, so I started reading about it, learned about its history involving long delays, congressional hearings, and a mission for Howard Hughes to prove people wrong.
At 320 feet from wingtip to wingtip, the Spruce Goose would fill up an entire football field. It was the largest seaplane ever built, a record that had stood for decades. Here's Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum docent Phil Santucci.
In order to give you an idea of the size of the aircraft from the inside, I have people take a look down inside the wing. And from where we are right here, you can see down past the fourth engine about 12 to 15 feet, and then there's a bulkhead.
Hollywood film producer Howard Hughes is the brains behind this behemoth beast. Explaining his dream from 1938, museum CEO Tyson Weinert.
In his dream, he describes, "I can dream of a day when I look out of a New York City skyscraper, and as I do, I see a flying boat."
In 1942, during the height of World War II, supply ships being sent across the Atlantic were getting destroyed by the enemy. The U.S. government wanted a better solution, so they turned to Hughes and shipbuilder Henry Kaiser to build a plane big enough to transport cargo through the air. Hughes had some history with planes. After all, he'd purchased TWA and built and flown the fastest airplane on Earth. For this one, though, there was a catch. With metal being in short supply due to the war, they'd need an alternative. So the solution was wood.
He was able to assess the strength of a product called Duramold and then secure the ownership rights of Duramold, which is effectively a plywood. But what not a lot of people know is that Duramold was sourced from yellow birch, which came from lumber yards here in Oregon.
This is part of the structure of the aircraft. And where it's cut away here, you can see where it's all made out of wood.
Kaiser and Hughes would eventually have a falling out and part ways. The project would get mocked by journalists and politicians for how long it was taking, earning it the nickname of Spruce Goose. It's a name Hughes himself is said to have hated, and one that's not entirely accurate.
There is a very little portion made of spruce.
He liked the name that he gave it himself, the H-4 Hercules. It was taking so long to build, it became the subject of a contentious Senate hearing. Then, on November 2nd, 1947,
on that day, he was only supposed to go out and complete 2 water taxis. And yet on that 3rd water taxi, he surprised the world when he actually got the flying boat airborne.
70 feet off the water, she stays for a mile. $23 million worth of airplane has answered a lot of committee questions.
It was the one and only time the Spruce Goose would leave the ground, or in this case, the sea.
Howard, did you expect that? Certainly, I like to make surprises. You were surprised, you know? I said I thought I'd make a surprise.
For years, it sat in a special warehouse owned by Hughes until he died. Disney then bought it and put it on display in Long Beach. Then in 1992, Evergreen Aviation bought the Spruce Goose to showcase front and center at their new museum.
All right, check this out. So, of course, you can walk through the belly of it at the museum or pay for a tour of the cockpit. But if you've ever wanted to fly it yourself, Microsoft just released an update for their Flight Simulator series where you can fly the Spruce Goose on your own.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I would totally do that.
Idea,
yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I can't remember how much the cockpit tour is. Is like an extra $5, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like $30 or something like that for a group of 4,
okay.
Group of 5, something like that.
But I've done that. It's super cool, and it's one of those things you really can't. And you'll testify to this going down there. You can't describe it to anybody. It's one of those things you have to see yourself to really get the handle on how large this is.
Yeah.
It's an amazing piece of aviation history.
And he used to be a flight attendant, so I feel like we're
Well, I worked for TWA, which had a strong legacy to Mr. Hughes, of course, who was the owner of the airplane.
Well, if you like that one, Rod, and you guys want to catch up more, there's an easy way to do so. Just text the word NAME to 503-226-5088. We'll send you back a link where you can watch the entire playlist of stories.